Well, things just keep coming back around. It's like there's a big circle. And after you do all the counting, and count it all out, there's really only the one. Back in 1992, 93, I guess it was. I was living in Japan teaching English. I have to say that was probably the best year of my life. I learned how to find balance between going after it and just enjoying it. I got to go in and I had classes of kids from 2 all the way through, high school. And then I had private classes. I got to sit down with the adults of Japan that were no longer in high school, and some of them had lived through World War II. And I had this one group of women. Gosh, how old were they? I don't remember now, but however old they were, they had all had husbands that fought in World War II. My grandfather fought in World War II. And he was in a lot of hand-to-hand combat. And he was on Iwo Jima. Those guys who were there, I think, call it the 3-Island Tour. I forget wherever else they went at this point. I've looked it up, read a lot about it, but off the top of my head right now, all I remember the Iwo Jima stories. Horrible shit. Horrible fucking shit. He didn't like to talk about it, but he was a boxer. He was a Golden Glove boxer in the Navy in 1942 or whatever. He stayed in for years. He stayed in, I think, 3 years, whatever, until the war finished. But so anyway, and he taught me how to box a little bit, not that much, but some. I learned that some doesn't work very well. You're going up against a superior force. I got boxing gloves for a Christmas present one year. And so I thought, yeah, I got a Golden Gloves. Grandpa fought World War II, and he taught me a little bit about boxing. We worked out in the backyard and so on. And I had a buddy over who I played water polo with. This is like, I think about 10th grade, somewhere around there. And so we strapped the gloves on. I thought I was just going to kick his ass. About 5 minutes later, I'm looking up and I'm going, Tim, is that you? What happened? Not only do you need to have some good training, which I had a little of, maybe he could have made me better, but you have to have a superior physical being. You have to have natural ability. My buddy Tim knocked me out one big punch. Bam! I'm waking up later. So anyway, back to the war stuff in Japan and teaching English and so on and so forth. So we spent a lot of nights in the backyard. My grandparents raised bulldogs. So they had what you could call a kennel, but not much of a kennel. It was just like a lean-to roof made out of plywood and something to make the rain roll off the bulldogs instead of landing on the bulldogs. And there were 6 rows, all concrete. Each one had a nice warm doghouse at the end. They were about, I don't know, maybe 30 feet long. And so anyway, we had the bulldogs over there. 6 of them dog houses next to each other, and the bulldogs, they're out there snorting and spitting on everything. That's what bulldogs do. I don't know if you know what bulldogs are like, but pretty much every bulldog I ever met. I've known bulldogs since I was about 3, because my grandparents raised them, and I'd go over there and I'd crawl into the pen with them. They would just fucking lay all over me and lick me to death and slobber all over me. And these fuckers slobber all the time. I mean, they're always leaking. So there's always a trail of bulldog leakage wherever you go. I don't know why anybody would want a bulldog. Doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But anyway, so we got the bulldog farm over there out in the backyard in the country where my grandparents built their house. And then we got the outside boxing ring. It's not a boxing ring. It's just my grandpa built a platform so you could punch. So you had the heavy bag and you had the speed bag, and I like the speed bag. It made me feel fast. Which you are if you can punch one of those, because your hands are moving faster than you can even see, and you just have to rely on faith. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my hand's gonna hit it at the right time this time. And it turns out, holy shit, the human body's an amazing thing. I could actually punch that fucking speed bag faster than I could see. I didn't even know where my hands were. You feel it. Boom, 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 boom. Then you got the heavy bag. That's a little different. So you can see your hands, hitting the heavy bag. And the heavy bag's only 3/4 of a pound. The speed bag is probably 6 ounces or 8 ounces. I don't know what it is, but anyway, so my grandpa, funny how all this shit wraps around and connects. My grandpa didn't like talking about the war. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. He'd seen some horrible shit. And he'd done some things that, any man would wish they could take back and wish they hadn't done. But they needed to do it right then, at that moment. Because it's them or you. It's not a fucking slogan. It's a reality in war. And I'm not a soldier. I've never offered myself up for the services. You can call it whatever you want. Maybe I just don't believe. Maybe I don't want to have Nancy Pelosi telling me who I should go kill. Or Chuck Schumer. Anyway, I didn't do it. But back in my grandfather's day, apparently it seemed like, right thing to do. Seems like some bad people are trying to do some bad things out there in the world. And maybe some of you good guys need to go out there and stop them. So, Not here to argue the merits of that war, who was right and who was wrong, and so on. I mean, some obvious claims can be made, but let's not go there. This is not about that. This is about one man who did go to war and who ended up killing a lot of people and saw some horrible shit. And then fast forward, 1992. I guess I'm, oh shit, what am I? I'm 32 years old by then. I just been working on a master's program in philosophy at San Francisco State. I was getting ready to go to law school, which would have been a big mistake. So I'm glad things worked out the way they did. But I found this opportunity to go to Japan and teach English. And you didn't need to have an English degree, you just needed to have a degree. So I had a couple of degrees by then, 3 as a matter of fact. But, so I talked the guy that was hiring for the job into hiring me. And that's a whole story in itself, which I won't tell right now. So now it brings it all back around. So I'm in a private school in Japan for my first year over there. Well, I was only there for 1 year. I was in Korea for 4 years. I was in both private and public in Korea. But Japan, I was only in a private school. And I had kids. I worked at 3 different schools, so I had to travel, from school to school every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And one of my schools was pretty much every student in that school was 2 or 3 years old. So basically it was playtime. I used to, one of the things I loved doing with them was I had this big deck of cards that had a picture on one side and nothing on the other side. So I'd write the word of the thing on the other side. And then we'd practice. We'd look at both sides. It's, okay, clown. Flip the card, that's the word clown. Car. Flip the card. Car. Rodent. Flip the card. Rodent. Picture of my ex-wife. So anyway, the kids, that was just one of the things we did throughout the year. But holy shit, after doing that for a little while, you could place all those cards with the words up and you could say a word, clown, ex-wife, or whatever. And that kid would grab that card faster than you could fucking get to the card. They was like, it's mine now! It's mine now! Hi! Oh, I karate you. The kids were not going to let go of that card. And they were pretty much right 100% of the time. Yeah, you got a couple of slow kids. They just grabbed the fucking nearest card, but that's okay. Most of the kids were actually learning something, learning how to recognize, what a word looks like that represents a thing. So that was a lot of fun. But coming back to the point, which I keep trying to avoid, the wives. I had the small groups, the adult groups. I had groups, high schoolers on up, and you can have up to 6 people in a group. And I had a few adult wives groups, and at least one that was, of the age where their husbands had fought in the war. World War II. So, I had a quiver of stories about World War II, but it was all horrible shit. So I couldn't tell any of it. And I'm sure they had a quiver. Several quivers. But most amazing thing, if you really think about it. Here I am, sitting in Japan, an American, white American, one of the bad guys according to everything they're telling us now. White American males are evil! Unless you're gay or something. But here I am. In the early 90s, I'm sitting there with women who lost husbands in the Second World War. And surely they lost friends, and surely they lost husbands' friends, and so on. And surely some of that was in hand-to-hand combat in an island called Iwo Jima, or something like that. And I had been out in the backyard punching the bag in the dark. One dim bulb above the bulldog pen was the only thing that lit anything up, and my grandfather's sitting there on an old wooden crate, smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey in the dark and telling me stories about what he had to do in Iwo Jima and other places. And now I'm sitting in Tokyo in a very modern building, working for a very successful company. I got a bunch of fantastic Japanese co-workers who I love. And I'm sitting there at a table with half a dozen women who either had husbands or friends killed in World War II. Some of them in hand-to-hand combat. And of course I had to wonder, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? And do I even need to say? I'm gonna say it, just because I want to make sure there's no miscommunication here. But I'm sitting there at the head of the table trying to teach these women some English, just by conversationally speaking, to attempting to keep the conversation in simple words. Occasionally, you wander off the path and get into deeper stuff, but I'm sitting there at the head of the table, I'm listening to these women tell me about dead husbands and dead friends, and how they got killed on Iwo or somewhere else. Yeah. Is it possible that my grandfather killed your husband? Call me melodramatic, but I just don't see how you don't consider that if you get put in the situation that I was in with the people that I was in that situation with, and their willingness to be honest about things, and the joy we all felt that, well, we sure have come a long way, haven't we? Look at us sitting here right now talking. You're a young American boy and with some old Japanese grandmothers, and we all get along just fine. That's progress. But that doesn't mean some memories go away and some horrible thoughts don't occur to you while you're sitting there living the new paradigm. And I love the Japanese. They are some of the hardest working, most admirable people I've ever met. Next to the Koreans. I like the Koreans more. I spent more time with them, 4 years instead of 1. But, and we didn't have any of those stories with the Koreans, funnily enough. I remember I was mostly teaching public school in Korea, so I had kids and classes, and basically 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Did some other stuff, but that was pretty much it. So you never got yourself in a situation where you were sitting with women who women who had husbands that your grandfather might have killed to stay alive. What an amazing life. It's available to all of us. It still is, but probably not the version I lived. Signing off.